In this short bonus video, again this is a bonus video, I'm going to briefly discuss where you may have seen pendulum equations and where Taylor series actually comes into play. So this comes up typically maybe in a differential equations or an introductory mechanics physics course. So if we have a pendulum, which if you're unsure, a pendulum is something that it's tethered to a single point, and it's going to freely rotate. So this pendulum is basically going to swing back and forth. Oops. And the way it's swinging is because there's the force of gravity pushing it downwards, but because this is tethered to this point up top, it's only allowed to swing basically on an arc. And I'm going to skip all of the physics for us right now. Of course, these things have like a length, it has a mass, maybe this pendulum bob has a radius, etc. But the typical equation you see in physics or in differential equations describing a pendulum is based off of the angle in which changes that we're trying to measure the pendulum. So for example, as the pendulum's swinging, that angle theta is going to change. And the differential equation that describes that, again, there's no reason you should know what this equation is for calculus B, is the following. It's I, which stands for a moment of inertia, times the second derivative of the angle as it's changing with respect to time, plus maybe there's a damping term, times the first derivative of the angle with respect to time, or the angular velocity. But then finally, the piece that's going to be useful for us in Calc B is plus mg L times the sine of theta. And this whole thing equals 0. Okay, again, there's no reason you should know what this equation is, or even where it comes from for that matter, but just think of it right now, it's a pendulum equation. And one thing that tends to get swept under the rug quite quickly is this sine term, when we start seeing this in differential equations or in introductory physics courses. And the reason for that is this sine term makes this equation itself very difficult, if not impossible, to solve by hand. So what people tend to do is take this sine term and ask ourselves, what does its Taylor series look like? And maybe only use the first term or the first two terms. So if you remember the Taylor series for sine, the Taylor series for sine can be written as sine of theta is equal to the infinite series from n equals 0 to infinity of minus 1 to the n. Since we have theta as our variable, it's theta to the 2n plus 1 all over 2n plus 1 factorial. And if we're just to write out the first couple terms, so again, this squiggly line saying that it's getting close to approximately equal to, the first couple terms for sine is theta plus theta cubed over 3 factorial, or sorry, that's a minus, whoops, theta minus theta cubed over 3 factorial, then plus theta to the 5th over 5 factorial, etc., since sine has all the odd terms. And the approximation that gets made is we don't even use that many terms. Typically, what gets done in a lot of courses is we only need the first term of the Taylor series, approximating sine just as its first term of theta. So if we rewrote that equation up top, that differential equation, the way you may have seen this in those courses before was a second order equation but instead of sine being on that last term, you just have a theta. And replacing that sine by just theta in the approximation through its Taylor series, as in this, makes this equation actually solvable by pen and paper. So if you've ever done things with pendulums and you saw this second differential equation down below, know that you did an approximation using a Taylor series. But again, for Calc B, there's no reason you should know this second order differential equation, let alone how to derive it through these pendulum kinematic diagrams or force diagrams.